Father Seraphim Michalenko, from the Marians of the Immaculate Conception. Father's been involved with Divine Mercy since he was a teenager. The priest that escaped from Poland with the Divine Mercy message in the 1940s used to preach at his parish when he was a teenager. And by God's providence, he was put in the thick of things. Father Seraphim was able to pull out of Poland the entire diary of Faustina on film, past the communists, by God's grace. And by God's grace, he was the principal vice postulator, and I say principal vice postulator for the cause of canonization of St. Faustina, because out of all the postulators all over the world, the only two miracles that were used for the beatification and canonization came through Father Seraphim. So I introduce to you now Father Seraphim Michalenko.
Dear friends, I lost my voice last night, but I hope you'll be able to catch my whisper. Can you hear? Okay. I could keep you here for weeks if we were going to go in depth to all the facets of the message and the devotion to Jesus, the Divine Mercy. But we'll have to restrict ourselves to two of the major aspects, to the two of the major elements of the message and devotion, namely the image of Jesus, the Divine Mercy, and the Feast of Mercy. In his Palm Sunday sermon delivered on March 16, 452, Pope St. Leo the Great had this to say: "At last, the feast of our Lord's Passion has arrived, the feast that we have desired and the entire world has longed for. Dearly beloved, it does not allow us to remain silent amid the exaltation of spiritual joys. It is difficult to speak often in a worthy and fitting manner about the same thing. Yet, the bishop nevertheless does not have the liberty to withhold the duty of his sermon from the ears of believers when it comes to so great a mystery of divine mercy. Why, the subject matter itself, from the mere fact that it is indescribable, grants abundant material for speaking. What needs to be said cannot be left out. Never can enough be said about the Passion." Now, Pope John Paul II, now the Venerable Servant, and shortly to be declared blessed, on the first universal celebration of Divine Mercy Sunday in 2001, entitled his homily with these words: "Divine Mercy, the Easter gift." And he said, in order to understand thoroughly the truth of the day's responsorial psalm, "The Lord's mercy endures forever," let us be led by the liturgy to the heart of the event of salvation, which unites Christ's death and resurrection with our lives and with the world's history. This miracle of mercy has radically changed humanity's destiny. It is a miracle in which is unfolded the fullness of the love of the Father, who for our redemption does not even draw back before the sacrifice of his only begotten Son. So the Paschal mystery, as it is called, the celebration of Christ's passion, death, and resurrection, is the Easter gift of mercy. And on April the 26th, in 2006, the year after Pope John Paul II's death, which the Holy Father Benedict XVI celebrated on the very anniversary of his death, summed up this. No, he summed up his venerable predecessor's magisterium, declaring, "The worship of the divine mercy is not a secondary devotion." In the original German, you can read that word secondary rather to mean it is not a second-rate devotion, but an integral dimension of a Christian's faith and prayer. And the heading to the homily that was printed in the Vatican newspaper, the L'Osservatore Romano, carried this headline: "Divine Mercy, a key component of the Christian's faith." Now, on February the 22nd of this year, there occurred the 80th anniversary of our Lord's apparition to a humble religious sister in Poland, a nun of the second choir in the Congregation of Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy, whose major charism is to rehabilitate women who wish to begin a new life of virtue, or who are entrusted to the care of the sisters by police or social workers. The major thrust of our Lord's message is the propagation of an image of Jesus as the divine mercy incarnate throughout the world, and the establishment of the Feast of the Divine Mercy to be solemnly celebrated on the first Sunday after Easter. To both the veneration of his image and the celebration of the feast, our Lord has attached significant promises. The elements of the Divine Mercy devotion are to serve to prepare the world for the Lord's return. So in a sense, St. Faustina's mission is not yet finished. In her writings, we find this passage directed to her spiritual director. There will come a time when this work, which God is demanding so very much, will be as though utterly undone. And then God will act with great power, which will give evidence of its authenticity. It will be a new splendor for the church, although it has been dormant in it from long ago. That's in diary, paragraph 378. The prophecy was fulfilled when, after 20 years of the message that the Lord gave to Sister Faustina was being spread, on the 15th of April, 1978, the Holy See revoked its notification of the 6th of March, 1959, which prohibited the spreading of the devotion to the Divine Mercy in the forms proposed by Sister Faustina Kowalska. On the 16th of October, 1978, the Archbishop of Krakow, who after a thorough theological investigation of the matter, with many Polish bishops requested that the prohibitions no longer be binding, and he was elected to the papacy hardly 6 months to the date, with the name John Paul II. On the 12th of July, 1979, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, in a letter to the Father General of the Congregation of Mary's, the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary, some of whose members had promoted the said message in devotion already from hardly 2.5 years after Sister Faustina's saintly death in the opinion of sanctity, and who requested of the Holy See an authoritative explanation of the scope of the new 1978 notification, ascertained that there no longer exists on the part of this sacred congregation any impediment to the spreading of the devotion to the Divine Mercy in the authentic forms proposed by the religious sister that was mentioned. Now, the foremost of the authentic forms of the devotion, which our Lord earnestly desires, and on which he insisted in 14 revelations to Sister Faustina, is the solemn celebration of the Feast of the Divine Mercy on the first Sunday after Easter, known after Vatican II reform of the liturgy as the second Sunday of Easter. Now, the second Sunday of Easter, marking the end of the first 8 days of the Easter season, known as the octave of Easter, considered liturgically as 1 day from Sunday to Sunday, was always considered by the Church to be a very special feast day, as can be seen from the earliest extant document that treats of liturgical matters, namely the Apostolic Constitutions. And there we read, "Now the Lord is risen. Offer your sacrifice, concerning which he made a constitution by us, saying, 'Do this for a remembrance of me.' And thenceforward, leave off your fasting and rejoice, and keep a festival, because Jesus Christ, the pledge of our resurrection, is risen from the dead. And let this be an everlasting ordinance till the consummation of the world, until the Lord come. After 8 days, let there be another feast, observed with honor, the 8th day itself, on which he," meaning the Lord, "gave me, Thomas, who was hard of belief, full assurance by showing me the print of the nails and the wound made in his side by the spear." Somehow, the particular importance and special meaning of that feast became obscured in the Church over the centuries. It is no wonder, then, that St. Faustina referred to it within the work of mercy as being dormant in the Church from long ago, and that our Lord should insist that it be brought back into prominence. For when St. Faustina tried to avoid making the effort to work toward the establishment of the Feast of Mercy, saying that she was told there already is such a feast, Jesus immediately countered, saying, "And who knows anything about this feast? No one. Even those who should be proclaiming my mercy and teaching people about it often do not know about it themselves."